The first one of my employees who saw the ghost of the little girl is one of those people that I would characterize as an out-and-out skeptic. Well, I'm Todd Chaldes, and I'm the general manager of the Byrd Theatre, and I've been here for just over 16 years. And the Byrd Theatre has been around considerably longer than I have, having first opened its doors to the Richmond public in 1928, which made it 85 years old this past December 24th. And 1928 sort of places it very nicely in history, right in between 1927, which is the beginning of the sound age with the release of the jazz singer, and 1929, which of course is the beginning of the Great Depression. So we sort of feel like 1928 was the last year that a theater of this size, scale, and opulence probably could have or would have been built. And with the sound overtaking the cinema scene for about a year before the theater opened, the Byrd Theatre on day one had both a state-of-the-art sound system, Vitaphone sound system. Now understand, when we say state-of-the-art, we're talking about a phonograph player that played a record simultaneously with the movie, because that was the state-of-the-art, and a Wurlitzer theater organ, because if you had a movie theater of this size and scale, you had a theater organ, and you had a house organist, because a significant amount of the product that was shown was still silent, and the Wurlitzer acted as the one-man orchestra for the silent pictures, as well as providing incidental sound effects, train whistles, car horns, that sort of things during the course of the film. The decor was very much the way you see now. The paintings up on the wall, which are paintings and not frescoes, as has been frequently misrepresented as. A fresco, of course, would be a painting done directly onto wet plaster, like the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. These are not. These are paintings that were done on canvas in a studio in New York and brought in and attached to the walls as you see them. They, just like all of the figurative paintings in the building, have a sort of vaguely mythological theme. Clearly that's the look they were going for. They have defied people's explanations of exactly what mythological scenes or figures they represent, but if you take a look at the woman in blue, all the way over here on the left, you'll notice that upper body clothing is somewhat optional for all of the females, but we have been told that when the paintings were installed, she was completely nude, or at least topless, and apparently her toplessness was considered too overt, and the blue garment she's wearing supposedly was painted in after the painting was installed. You'll notice it does sort of have a doll dress quality to it. We've never proven that. At some point we probably will have restorers working on it, and they'll be able to tell us whether or not that's true, but it's too good a story not to tell. You'll also notice the oval shields at the tops of the columns, all of which represent different countries. They are not official country emblems or seals by any means. They're sort of artists' interpretations of them. Flanking the central painting on the left with the two fleur-de-lis is France, representing the French Empire styling of the theater. And the one on the right is the United States. Now, I say French Empire styling. If you're a true student of design, you can find bits and pieces of everything from French Empire, Romantic, all the way through Art Deco, which is not unusual for movie palaces. Movie palaces people usually find a definitive style and say, oh, well, it's this, but there's little bits and pieces of everything. I like to say that movie palaces are sort of, as Mark Twain described himself, American mongrels, and proud of it. This carpet was originally much more ornate. There was a much more ornate patterned carpet, which we still have samples of, and we hope to eventually have a reweave restoration done of that carpet to replace the plain red. And of course, what the concession stand, which was not here. There was a curb, a marble curb, and a railing, very similar to the one up here, that surrounded the area where the carpet ends, and there was a pond, or there was a place for a pond. Based on photographic evidence, we think it probably spent very little of its time here actually filled with water. They probably rapidly realized it was more trouble than it was worth. But there were rocks and greenery, at some point statues, for one very brief time period, koi in it, but a lot of the time they seemed to use it as a place to put big lobby displays for upcoming movies and that sort of thing. And of course, Concessions, now when the Byrd Theatre opened, in the late 1920s, movie theater owners on the whole were not terribly wild about the idea of letting people have food in their establishment. I mean, that's a horrible thought. You've got all this great fabric and interior, you're going to have to let people come in. Of course, what happened is that the businesses surrounding the Byrd and the businesses surrounding other theaters had absolutely no problem selling food and drink to these people, and of course you could keep it out. But what they rapidly discovered is that there was a whole revenue base that they were missing out on. The first concession stand was actually just a little counter that they set in front of the railing in this area. We have some photographs of that. And by 1930, the first of what would become several generations of installed concession stands were put in, and it was all downhill from there. We have photographs from 1930 all the way through 1950. In fact, there's one woman who worked here some 25 years, and we have a picture of her behind almost every generation of concession stand. Never smiled in any of the photographs, but she's there. It's important to understand that the movie theater going experience was very different in the 1920s than it is today. I mean, today we think about it, you know, going and seeing the big Hollywood movie and going away again. But we're talking before television. People had newspapers, and of course they had radio. But if you wanted to see events that happened outside of the borders of your own life, a movie theater was the only place that would happen. To that end, you would usually come and see a whole bill of programming and not just one film. You would come, the organist would play, there might be a cartoon, there was probably a newsreel, maybe a travel log of some kind, and probably one or two short subjects or a serial picture in addition to a main feature. And you also, it wasn't until much later, really the 1960s, that we sort of got into this concept of one ticket, one show. So there would be this rotating bill of things that would play. You would buy a ticket and you would come in at some point and you would sort of stay until you'd seen everything once again. That was sort of the way it was done, which is why people are often befuddled by, it's like, okay, it had this many seats, how did they get away with having so few bathrooms? It's like, well, there wasn't this big single exodus time that we think of right now. I mean, there certainly were times. Also, quite honestly, there were a good many more service employees that were here at the theater when it opened. The number of employees that were here at any time when the theater was open was probably 3 or 4 times what it is today. There was, among other things, an attendant for each of the washrooms. There were probably anywhere from 4 to 6 and sometimes as many as 8, 10, or 12 ushers. You would have an attendant at the concession stand once there was somebody operating the box office. There would be a projectionist, an electrician whose job it was to run the electrical panel that controlled the house lights, and a porter who would take motion picture film to and from the booth because the projectionist was not responsible for doing that. So there were a good many more employees here at one time than there are today. And I have, for example, the last complete payroll sheet I have from those days is from 1952. There were some 48 or 50 employees, and an entire 2 weeks of payroll was somewhere in the neighborhood of $632.
Rare.
So, it's Turkish. There is only one quarry in the world, we're told, that it could have come from. And you'll see where pieces meet. It's almost like a Rorschach ink blot. They're mirror images of each other. What you're looking at is a piece of marble which was split open and finished on both faces. It was a custom job. These pieces were cut especially to be fitted in here. It was not something that was ordered off the shelf. That and all of the other decorative accoutrements of the theater were absolutely top-notch. Like the chandelier, 2.5 tons and over 5,000 individual pieces of Czechoslovakian crystal, over 500 individual light bulbs. And all of those light bulbs that you see are not small. Those are full, like, medium base light bulbs, like are actually, I think, becoming illegal at this point in time, but those are actually full-size light bulbs. Everything on the chandelier is huge. It's easier to appreciate its size from the balcony. From down here at this angle, it's hard to appreciate just how large it is, but it's almost 19 feet tall. And when it's lowered for cleaning and relamping, like we just did this past December, with the ball at the bottom level with the tops of the seats, the neck still goes well up past the balcony rail. All of the decorative plastering here was hand done. Now that does not mean that it was all done here. A lot of the individual pieces, particularly the repetitive pieces, were precast and came here. We still have unpainted samples of a lot of them, but they would have all been set in wet plaster and joining material and so forth cast right in place by the Lignoli brothers. You'll also notice, and all of this was hand painted, you'll also notice there is no white light in the auditorium. All the lighting is indirect. All of it is amber, blue, and red. This was part of the design. It's important to understand that even when the Byrd Theatre was new, it was supposed to look old. It was supposed to recall that grand European style of theater. And everything here. I've had people vigorously assert that they can tell me exactly where the vistas depicted in the Trompe de l'Œil or Illusion of Life boxes on the side are, or the backings in the boxes flanking the stage. So many people that I think that they probably are purposely vague. I think they are probably artists' amalgamations of a bunch of different things. There are also lots of details that it's easy to miss. For example, a lot of people their first time in here don't realize that there are actually cameos arranged all around, little profile paintings around the theater. There's two right there. There's one on either side at the tops of the columns on either side of the boxes. And there's a bunch of these hand-painted details that are spread throughout the theater. There probably is less that's changed in the theater itself than elsewhere in the building. One of the things is originally there were several additional layers to the proscenium. There actually were five separate windows, and the original screen, which was much squarer than what we're used to today, a 1:3:3 ratio, was almost at the back wall, which is why there's as much stage space as there is now behind the screen. Later, when they put in the first CinemaScope with screen, they sort of punched through those other layers of proscenium and it just sort of suspended out in front. And then later they destroyed all of those additional layers of the proscenium and put in the existing curtain treatment and flown screen. Now, of course, the organ, which was used to accompany the silent films, has been here from the very beginning. The console is here in the center, and people talk about the console as though that's the organ. They say, oh, well, you come and the organ rises up out of the orchestra pit. But of course, this is the organ console, the keyboard, the control. The actual instrument that comprises the organ runs the entire width of the stage in 4 rooms in the highest part of the building. And in there is a massive blower. There are 2 rooms filled with xylophones, pipes, drums. Everything that you hear when the organ is played is acoustic. There's nothing, there are no speakers, there are no electronics, there's nothing synthesized. Everything you hear is an actual instrument being played. And it is an electro-pneumatic device, meaning when he depresses the key on the keyboard here, he's closing an electrical contact, which in turn opens a valve, allowing air to flow through and either actually sound a pipe like like a piccolo or a trumpet, or actuate something that would beat a drum or a xylophone or something like that. The piano in the box in the house left is not decorative. That is actually part of the organ installation. The keyboard, which has an action on it very similar to a player piano, it's actually a vacuum action, whereas most of the organ actually operates through positive air pressure, can be played from the console of the organ. Now the harp, on the other side, is that you can see is strictly decorative. It came to us with a cracked soundboard and has never actually been a playable instrument. However, the platform that it is sitting on is actually a marimba, or wood harp, and is a functional part of the organ and can be played, and it creates the illusion that the harp is being played. It's a pretty good one too. I've had patrons insist to me, oh no, you can actually see the strings of the harp move. Imagination is a powerful thing. The balcony here is important because of something it doesn't have. There are no support columns along the leading edge. If this theater had been built in 27 or before, there almost certainly would have been anywhere from 6 to 8 cast iron support columns. This is a true cantilevered balcony. There are structural members running lengthwise through it which distribute the weight between the back wall of the theater and the front half of the building. That was pretty cutting-edge architectural technology for 1928, as is the steel superstructure in the entire roof of the building at a time period where they hadn't entirely gotten away from the idea of using wood cross beams to support that. So there actually is very, very little wood in the structure of the Byrd at all. The superstructure is steel. Places like the floor here are laid concrete. The walls are hard plaster over metal lath, over terracotta block, over a red brick. Also on the original blueprints, this back wall with the cuts in it for the stairs did not have those breaks in it. And at the top of the 2 stairwells, which are behind the exit doors, there are closets which were plumbed for bathroom fixtures that were never installed. We're pretty sure the reason for this is that they originally intended the rear half of the balcony to be colored or Negro access only. Now, the fact that they didn't do that does not mean that the theater was miraculously desegregated in 1928. It would have been a white theater. But we're pretty sure that that's was the original plan based on the blueprints and the changes. So, when Coulter, who at 6'2" or 3" was an incredibly tall man, especially in the 1920s, would actually take the time to watch a movie, his favorite place to do so would be this seat right here. 2 rows up from here, right on the aisle, where he could sort of put his legs out into the aisle. And it is right in that location that is the most frequent place that his ghost has been observed. The first one of my employees who saw the ghost of the little girl is one of those people that I would characterize as an out-and-out skeptic, and really seemed to sort of floor and disturb her when she sort of got the level of what was going on. And she has flat out refused on multiple occasions to talk to people on camera about it since then. So it isn't like she was looking for attention. If anything, she's gone away from it as much as possible. So to my mind, that one incident alone lent a little bit of credence. One of the other problems I didn't mention before is the Byrd has been around so long. There's so many rumors and layers of rumors, and you've got like a little tiny kernel of truth over which several layers of myth, fantasy, and just made-up bullshit has layered itself. And one of the most frequent is people have heard that the Byrd is haunted by the ghost of one of the former managers. And his assistant manager, and later the manager, and was later the manager after he died, was killed in a robbery. Wasn't here at the theater, it was like over on Parkwood Avenue. But that rapidly became, oh, the Byrd is haunted by the ghost of the manager who was killed there, which absolutely isn't the case, because to my mind, nobody has ever seen Stitzer's ghost. So.
My name is Patty, and I'm a manager here at the Byrd Theatre. I've been a manager for 2 years. Yeah,
what's your thoughts on the ghosts?
On the ghosts, well, I try not to think about it because I have to be here alone at night, and it's just something I choose to block out. But sometimes you get a weird feeling here. I've never seen a ghost, but if you're downstairs on a stand, I look up a lot because it's like somebody's walking by, like some sort of shadow. But that could be the lighting. I don't know. There's 1,000 reasons, explanations for that. But it's like I don't want to believe, but I guess I do.
Okay. So I guess, like visually, I guess you would have to see it before you believe in it, or?
No, I would believe it. I would believe it, but I would never want to visually see it. Well, one time, one of the other managers, she said she saw a figure. It was on this side, standing at the railing looking down at us. And that's the closest thing, I think. Just stuff up here. Things moving up here when you're downstairs. Yeah, I really just try not to think about it. There was one time I was sitting in that staircase by myself and I got a weird feeling that I wasn't alone, but I just
like, I don't know, like a breath or?
No, I would have freaked out.
It's just like a thought?
Yeah. It's just something I feel like that is constantly on my mind here, especially when I'm alone. It's like, it's there, but I don't acknowledge it.
So I guess, would you say it's just, I guess your imagination just kind of setting yourself up for?
Kind of. It's just I wouldn't be able to work here alone at night if I thought about it, because it's like too scary.
Little girl, if you're here in this room, I want you to play with that little birdie over there. Either move it across the table or make it dance or even pick it up. I'm gonna step away from the room, so if you're shy or anything.
Recording.
You have anything else you'd like to say for us? Stop right into the red light or move it out of your armrest. I know I'm not a big fan of things on my armrest.
Or have you already said everything to us, Mr. Coulter?
Just hang out with you, watch this movie. What you want? I heard even after you were let go, you'd still stay here until up to 2 days after you died. Spending so much time here, I guess that's why you still remain here. set the seat up for you, so I hope you're comfortable in your seat. Is there anything you'd like to say to us, Mr. Calder?
This is where they say you sit. Are you here currently, Mr. Calder? Any sign that you're here tonight, or should we not be afraid?
What?
What? Your camera's dead?
Yeah,
What? You can cut it. Uh-oh.
Yeah. What do you want us to get?
Battery voice camera. Said it's dead.
It's kind of cool.
Don't need me.
I know, right?
Film James walking through there. You said, so how much did you have?
I thought I had a little bit more than that left on there. So I left my camera here to record the little girl in the bathroom, and I come back and I had a fair amount of battery left. Totally. Wait a second. That was totally dead. Wait, what? What the hell? I cut it off and cut it back on. That's messed up. And I still got battery life, and I came in here when you guys weren't here, turned it on, turned it off, and now it's working. The battery is low, but it was totally dead. Did not want to cut on. Look at that. There you go. See? Look at that.
Yeah.
You saw battery life on that camera, right?
Yes.
Now it's totally dead. What the crap? Okay. I'm replacing out the battery.
The girl must have cut it off for you, just as you cut it off.
Okay. She didn't move the bird. I don't know if she did. I can't explain it yet. But that never happened.
Oh, you moved the bird first? It was
Yeah, I
different?
put the bird over there for her to play with it, and she's playing with something else.
She was playing with your camera.
I don't know if it's her or not, but you guys just saw there was battery left on that camera, and now it's dead again.
Because your camera's a new toy.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. All right.
She,
Are you with
wanted
us, little girl? Are you in the room right now? Can we hear you, or do you want to appear for us? Do you have anything you want to say to us?
Like looking over there.
yes, I am.
Oh, Matt's looking behind him.
Did you? Did, I am looking behind me. Because my bag's exposed.
There you go.
The little girl played with
Full battery on this one.
your camera, James.
Yeah. Okay. Cutting
You
it
brought a
off.
new toy into her place.
Oh, is that it? I was kind of expecting that, but I wasn't really expecting
You scared my brother, little girl.
Can you say your name for us, girl? Can you move that bird over there like I requested before? Now that you're possibly in the room with us.
The bird doesn't fascinate her like the camera.
It must not.
She's been playing with it.
She's probably played with the bird before.
Yeah.
All right, camera back on. Okay, we're good to go.
Aren't you scared, Jess?
Does it get a full battery?
Yeah, it's got a full brand new battery in this one. As you can see right there in the corner. Or,
It's not focusing.
focus again. What was it? That's the water dripping again. Alright, so we're recording now. Camera 2
once again. And then there's dripping water.
Some more water.
Yeah, I'm kind of thirsty myself. Alright, if you want to play with my camera again, we see that there's a full battery on here. Try out your new toy again. Okay, let's go exploring. Alright. You probably played with this before, but I'll set this on the floor. See if you want to push it over or anything.
No one's gonna go to the bathroom? Get footage.
No, just running water.
But it seemed to have increased.
It sounds like a toilet running. Did you hear those footsteps?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear those footsteps?
Yeah, I think it was next door though. Cause there's a bar right here.
Oh yeah, okay. I heard that. If you're here with us, girl, you can play with the bird or talk to us or have anything to say.
I think she might be shy around us, Jake.
I don't know. Okay, you push the little red ball or anything. You
Children don't always listen to what you tell them to do.
There's a little recorder down there on the floor. Maybe closer to your level, you can press talk into the red light. If you have anything to say, you can say it. You can take any energy from any of the electronics in the room if you want to help you communicate with us.
Have you asked why are you here?
Yes, why are you here in this bathroom? Since nobody knows really why you exist here in this bathroom. Did something happen to you?
Have you let anybody know? Did your mother leave you here? And she saw a movie.
Must be that you are shy, but if you ever push the ball, you can cut on and off my camera and play with that. You can say a few words too, maybe?
There will be a clear response to this next question. Here it is enhanced.
Is that you in the bathroom, running the water? Are you in the bathroom? If that's you in there, you can stop the water. Can you stop that water?
she wants to play today. Or play when we're around. Or we can maybe leave this room for now.
Other occurrences would take place, including more footsteps. Accompanied with the footsteps would be a cough just made off camera, and again, the others and I were on the other side of the building. Here it is enhanced. I'm glad we got to see not only what was on the screen at the Byrd Theatre, but what was behind it as well.